Hello, and welcome to our very special season finale of You'll Only Listen Twice, our podcast where we're taking a look at all the Bond movies, both official and unofficial. Woo! As always, I'm Jake.
I'm Troy.
And I have aged 23 years in these last 7 months. I'm Jan. We did it, guys!
We did it!
Well, we're going to see how far we get. We're definitely ranking the movies. Hopefully we'll finish it. It's done.
Hopefully.
Let's just, no intro this time. We have no bullshit, no production stuff, none of Jake's nonsense, no Peter Pan references.
Wait, but Jake.
What?
Maybe, can we talk about some of the production difficulties of making this episode?
Well, it all started out when Troy's computer, burst into flames.
It does that a lot.
It does that every episode.
Yeah, but this time, it, spontaneously combusted. Troy was sent to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
We thought he was gonna die for a second, but he's okay. And
You got kidnapped again.
I got kidnapped again by Hans Houndchess's minion.
Troy is such a big James Bond fan that he just had to buy a Sony Vaio from 2006, and it's been rough.
I'll say it. It's my least favorite James Bond gadget. It died 3 times while we were recording the For Your Eyes Only episode, which as of today may still be our most popular episode of
except
the podcast.
one person was really mad that it wasn't the movie.
We're sorry, the podcasts are not substitute for watching the James Bond movie. They're better. They're much better. It says review.
That guy went, I wanted the movie. He's like, you can just watch the movie elsewhere. It's,
Also, our review is an hour shorter.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can legally pay for your copy by subscribing to either Amazon Prime or HBO Max, or you can go to such renowned sites like Apple or Vudu and purchase your copy that way. Do not pirate it in any such way. We would never encourage
we would never tell you to pirate it and watch it for free at...
We would never tell you to pay $5.99 for a lifetime membership to Nebula, where you can watch all your favorite YouTube content creators.
We would never cheat people into subscribing to Nebula by saying they have all the James Bond movies in 4K.
Yes.
And the Coconut movies. All the James Bond
Night
movies.
of the Coconut,
yes.
You can watch Night of the Coconut for free. Not the James Bond movies, but...
No one thought of this before Nebula. Nebula is the first company... The first person to ever think of just doing YouTube on a different website.
Yeah.
But enough about Doug Walker.
Never
We've
enough.
established that no one knows who he is, and we're losing subscribers every time we mention him.
Well, Channel Awesome was at least free.
No, it was objectively better, but... So the James Bond movies.
So James Bond.
So today we decided to do something a little different. We finished all the movies.
Thank
we
God.
didn't want to leave on a downer note of James Bond dying at the end of No Time to Die. So we figured to put some more pep in your step and have one last hurrah before we let the missiles in and kill us. We will rank all of the James Bond movies in a superstar ranking aggregate that has been computed by our good friend and host Troy.
Long have I spent time innumerable in my tower, consulting the ancient texts, listening to the wisdom of the elders to compile this official ranking of all of the 29 James Bond pieces of media we consume.
But wait, there's more, because we're not only ranking the movies, but we're also gonna say what our favorite Bond girl is, who our favorite Bond villain is, our favorite Bond gadget.
It's all Telly Savalas.
Aye, the ancient scrolls have revealed the wisdom of the ages. Truly, the answers we give here today are not just definitive, but correct.
Yes.
They're painting Troy's apartment, so he's gonna be talking weird this entire...
Lo, Troy Stradamus shall have a new light green teal tone to his bedroom that shall match the art he bought at Crate and Barrel.
It looks nice. Yeah, so disclaimer, none of us know what the official aggregate ranking is, except Troy Stradamus, so we will be surprised.
We don't even know how anyone else has ranked these movies. I don't know what Jan's rankings are. I don't know what Troy's rankings are. I don't know what Paul's are. They don't know what mine is, because mine is different from my Letterboxd one. So,
Yes,
this should be interesting.
the rankings are unique.
And we don't know how all this aggregates together to form our super list. So there might be some bloodshed tonight, folks. So get ready.
And for new listeners, it's not just the Eon series, it is also an official ones. Never Say Never Again, Operation Kid Brother, you'll discover on this episode what the hell that is. And also Epic Movie. Don't ask me why.
I must unfortunately admit that no one got the ratings to Epic Movie to me, and no one included it in the rankings. So
Yay! our plan worked, guys. We don't have to talk about Epic Movie ever again.
Troy Stradamus must consign Epic Movie to the same dark pit of hell as the magnificent Amberson's work print cut, The Day the Clown Cried, and Batgirl.
Whoa.
All right, so sit back and relax and welcome to the first Yolt ranking of the Bond movies, our first and only.
The official one. This is the only Bond list you'll ever need.
If I may be serious for one moment, Jan is correct. This is the only official ranking of the Bond movies. Any other ranking of the Bond movies is illegitimate, and they will be hearing from Kevin McClory's lawyers.
Yeah, I'm already preparing the cease and desist for Calvin Dyson.
Yeah, every letter. If Calvin Dyson releases another ranking video, evil dies tonight. Anyway.
Just slap that with the lawsuit.
We do not stand for plagiarism here.
All right. 29 movies have entered the James Bond Thunderdome on James Bond Island. And one by one, they shall fall. The first movie to fall, bottom place, final slot, movie 29 is, with an average ranking of 26
Out of
29,
right.
is Live and Let Die.
Live and let die.
Oh my god!
That
wow.
one was expected, honestly. None of us liked it.
Yeah, none of us liked it, but I didn't think it would be like the absolute bottom slot.
All the Bond fans are clicking this video off and telling us to go fuck ourselves right now.
Wow.
And then they're putting up their white sheets and they're burning crosses.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. This one, I had really fond memories of this one as a kid. It's just, as an adult, it's not very good, is it?
It's racist, is what it is. It's racist and boring.
Yeah, no, it's racist and boring. It's much like your grandpa, boring and racist. So
Hey, my grandpa's not boring.
he's dead.
Yeah.
I must reveal the final rating, which is different. The average rating of this movie differs from our ranking.
Oh, okay.
It has an average rating of 3 out of 10 stars. It is also the lowest rated James Bond movie based on our average rating from the episode.
So yeah, it's at the bottom in all accounts.
Yeah, this one's really bad.
Should we say something nice about Live and Let Die? Like
Yes,
the
I will
song?
start saying this one is not my least favorite one by any means. There's a lot of cool shit in it. It's just very poorly delivered. The pacing's awkward. The big elephant in the room is all the, you know what I mean?
The Mankiewicz shenanigans.
All the Mankiewicz shenanigans, all the racist shit, and yes, all the Bond movies, problematic to a certain extent, but usually they override that by being very funny and entertaining. This one, unfortunately, is only sporadically funny and entertaining.
Yes, it's very bad. I hate it. As the only openly autistic person on the podcast, I have some more data that I need.
What a strange way to introduce
that,
yourself.
I love that he emphasized openly, because we know we're all on the spectrum. Troy's the only diagnosed one.
That's the only, I think. I don't know. All right. Other fun facts. You'll notice Jan and Jake are somewhat defending this movie, and me and Paul are not. This is correct. This is the lowest ranked movie on me and Paul's list, and me and Paul put this dead last. Both Jake and Jan put it at 23. So there are two camps here.
I don't think it's horrible. I will agree with
Racist.
Paul that maybe. I agree with Paul that it does have pretty much the worst characters in the entire series.
Yes.
Pretty rough.
Well, you got Rosie Carver, who is kind of an embarrassment
Awful.
on all fronts.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The worst character in fiction.
The worst character. Yes, just like
Yes.
like I feel bad for the actress playing her. She is written it's just so mean the way she's demeaned, like throughout.
It's an awful journey for that character.
And she's also a complete moron. I feel so bad for the actress, like having to play her.
She is actually like a character from an old like Warner Brothers racist cartoon.
No, they have a little more depth. I would argue Cold Black has a little more complexity.
Oh
than
my
Rosie
God,
Carver.
Cold Black and the Seven Dwarfs.
Damn.
Yeah, I would say that's like, don't watch that cartoon. I'm glad we don't.
All right.
There,
Not horrible, yeah.
there used to be a time in animation circles when they would be like, you got to admit Cold Black and the Seven Dwarfs is art. And I'm like, no,
No, it's
I
horrible.
don't have to
No.
admit that it's art.
Neither is Live and Let Die.
Neither is Live and Let Die. And just a fun fact, the lowest score for the movie was from me, 1 out of 10. It's the worst big budget movie I've ever seen. And the highest score was
I
5
wouldn't
out
go
of
that
10.
far.
Exactly, Jake, because you gave the highest score, 5 out of 10.
That's still not a great score.
No, it's not.
I still really like Baron Samedi and Mrs. Bell.
Holy shit.
Highlights of the entire
Yes.
franchise.
We're still saying this. If they want to do a spinoff with them, I wouldn't be opposed.
Even though they are both.
Yeah, both actors are dead, so let's make it happen, deepfake, ILM.
So yeah, we all agree. Live and Let Die. Pretty bad. Next one.
This is the last time we'll ever talk about any of these movies. So any comment?
About Live and Let Die? No. Actually, I will say, I do like David Hedison as Felix Leiter.
You what?
He'll have a better role
Yeah, you can
in
save
License to
that for
Kill.
a better movie.
But I do like the way he says, "You what?"
And if you want to come after us for not liking this movie, fucking Yafa and Koto thought it was horrible. So
Yeah,
don't give me that
yeah.
shit, you know? Like, people are actually embarrassed about this
And
one.
also, like, statistically, that episode is still one of our most popular episodes. And it took until our World Is Not Enough comments for people to start saying, I miss Sarah J.W. Pepper.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also our most disliked episode, I think.
Oh, is it?
I think technically it is.
Oh, well,
They're persecuting us for being right, for telling the truth.
28. Drum roll, please. At 28, we have, with an average score of 26, so it tied with Live and Let Die in ranking, but with an average rating of 4.5, it's slightly more beloved by us in the episode.
I think I know what it is.
It's Casino Royale 1967.
Join the Casino Royale fun movement.
I honestly was thinking that would be the bottom of the list, but
Me too. I think it's over Live and Let Die because I gave it a 10 out of 10, ironically.
Correct. You did give it a 10 out of 10 because it put you in the hospital.
You juiced it more than me.
yeah, this is Paul's favorite movie, and he didn't give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, Paul gave it a 4.
Well, I gave it a 10 out of 10 because if you listen to our episode, I tell how I ended up in the hospital because of this movie. And I don't think any other movie has had such a strong reaction on me, so that counts for something, right?
That's right.
Here's the thing. Me and Jake tied for the lowest rating on this. We both gave it a 2 out of 10. But I'll say this.
As it should be.
It is one of the worst movies of all time, but Orson Welles has some funny bits. Billy Wilder wrote some funny bits. John Huston has some funny bits. A lot of talented people have very silly things, and this is one of Woody Allen's best performances.
I'm gonna say this. This movie has so many of my favorite filmmakers working on it.
Yes.
It has sequences with amazing, mind-blowing, creative sets. The
Yes.
Caligari shit is amazing.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes,
It is such a painful fucking experience. Every minute is felt. It is excruciating to watch. So awkward, so boring, so unfunny, so disjointed. Such a fucking mess, not in a good way. Maybe if I watched it at the New Bev in LA, high on acid at midnight with a crowd, I would think it's a good bad movie. I've seen it 3 times, completely sober, and it is one of my least favorite movies of all time. This is my bottom one. I fucking hate it. Fuck this movie.
I have to say, I will start off with a positive about this movie. It is an interesting artifact to see what the world was specifically like in 1967. And it seems to be like a weird cultural touchstone for a lot of people who grew up in the 60s. Like Austin Powers is mostly based on this on like the 60s that is showcased in this movie.
Watching the fucking Zapruder film is also encapsulating the 60s. I don't want to watch that shit.
Well, yeah,
you know?
well, that's what I'm saying. It's like purely like if you're curious about what is like the Ortex of like Austin Powers, like the swinging 60s kind of shit. That's a pretty good start, like just purely watching it academically.
Because Austin Powers is more so aping off the style of this than actual James Bond movies.
Yeah, no, because Burt Bacharach composed the score, and Look of Love is from this, so...
And actually, that makes this the first James Bond movie to be nominated for an Oscar, correct?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. And that's the one saving grace for me is the music. I still is a fucking banger. Like, I listen to it all the time.
Yeah, no, the main theme is really fun.
I'm still waiting for an official James Bond movie to use it at one point.
I know, it's a legitimately great song. Use that in the Look of Love. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it's bad. Like, it's not funny, and it feels like you're watching like an 8-hour movie.
Yeah.
And it's a giant mistake.
It feels like Twin Peaks The Return if it was horrible, you know?
Well, okay. Troy's going to bulldoze into this conversation because we have 4 people on the podcast. Important things to point out. This is the only James Bond film to start a riot.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. And also, again, interesting things about the rankings. This is Jake and Jan's bottom James Bond movie.
Yes.
He listed it 29th.
Yeah.
I listed it 27th. Paul listed it 19.
Oh my god, you son of a bitch.
I have to swoop in and be the defender of this film. This was my discovery of the podcast.
Of the whole podcast, really?
This was the film I saw for the first time.
This is when you got into the groove.
By, and this is honestly the film that I'm looking forward the most to watching again.
Oh my god.
What?
You gave it a 4 out of 10, young man.
I gave it a 4 out of 10, which is my so bad it's good ranking. Of the films that I give a dislike, which I think is about how many? Like at least 10 of these movies I gave a not good rating. This is the best of the not good.
I am not joking. When I was a kid, I had the misfortune of walking into my parents having sex.
Oh no.
I would rather repeat that moment than watch Casino Royale
I thought
again.
you were saying they have sex to watching Casino Royale. Like
maybe, yeah. When they were 7 years
no,
old.
just on the TV whenever it comes on and they hear at Casino Royale.
I'll also give it this. It's a very sexy movie. It is like a natural
It is hot.
aphrodisiac.
Jacqueline Bisset is in it.
Yeah, I mean Orson Welles doing magic. Are you kidding me? That's sexy, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, duh, of course. Also, have you guys seen the video? I forgot to mention it in both Casino Royale reviews, but if you go on YouTube and look up the Casino Royale 1967 theme in the 2006 opening, fits perfectly. A joy.
Oh, beautiful.
A delight.
Beautiful. There's so much to love about this movie, and there are so many films
that
we covered on this podcast that we described as complete trash and glorious kamikaze missions that were incredible, and to me, this is that. So.
I will agree with Paul on that. This fits glorious kamikaze mission more than Roger Moore wears a tracksuit in San Francisco.
You might have a point there.
There's so much going on.
Well, speaking of which,
oh
27
God, no!
with an average rating of 4.25 out of 10 is A View to a Kill.
With a view
No!
Yeah!
I had that as my number 20, motherfucker.
Yes, it has an average ranking of 25.75, so it fared 0.25 better on average than the other two movies.
This is my least favorite one of the official series.
It's the least well made.
It's fucking awful. Just so boring, so geriatric, so like just awkward. I had a bad time watching this. No good, no bueno, as we say in Mexico.
As you drink your mojito.
As I drink my mojito.
Me and Jan have it second from the bottom. Paul has it at 27, one higher than us, and Jake has it at 20. And what the hell did Jake give it? What the? Jake
what did I
gave
give
it
it?
a 6. Jake gave it a 6.
Yeah.
I gave it a 1. It's like,
Wait,
no.
didn't he give it 5 stars in the podcast? I guess
No,
not.
I listened.
he
This
gave
guy
it a
didn't
6.
even stand by it.
He was defending it so
Yes.
strongly that you'd think he gave it a 10, but it was only because we hated it so much.
Well, and to be fair, I genuinely liked this movie. Besides the fact that it
I'm
was
not
shot
gonna
in San
grill you for this
Francisco.
one because we grilled you so much
Yeah,
for
no,
3 hours.
I got very grilled. I was very also. If you listen back, I was also quite drunk by the end of
no,
recording that
really?
episode.
You were? Huh? I didn't pick up on that.
And then they go to the yeah, and then you shit yourself.
Jan did an excellent job making me sound as coherent as possible.
I have edited entire campaigns, like professional campaigns that were easier to edit than Jake in this episode.
Yeah, A View to a Kill. I mean, people think this is Casino Royale because Christopher Walken is in it. No, it's not. Because Casino Royale has Orson Welles doing magic, while this is Christopher Walken being indifferent to the world around him.
There's no bits. There's nothing.
Yeah, you cast, it's like we said in the episode, you cast Christopher Walken as a Bond villain. Sounds like the best thing ever. He does nothing.
What? He almost shoots himself.
Oh, wow.
And then like Roger Moore and Patrick McNee are like two old guys. They're like our heroes for the.
There are old people in it.
There are old people in it. What's wrong with old people? They can get on top of fire trucks.
This kerfuffle is perfectly encapsulated in the episode.
Yeah.
When we're just talking, the three of us, how horrible the Golden Bridge sequence is. And then Jake, unironically, half drunk, goes, well, it's a great scene. We all agree. Moving on.
Because it is.
I think you argued that it's like one of the most iconic action scenes in cinema.
I didn't say it was the most iconic action scenes of cinema. What I said was, it is always nice in movies when you have the main characters fight on a giant landmark. Hitchcock did it. The Great Mouse Detective did it. A View to a Kill does it.
X-Men.
X-Men.
But this movie is very stale and boring, and it has no good ideas at all. Don't watch it.
Yes, and if we want to watch a movie with two old people in it, we could watch The Two Popes. Now, some would say The Two Popes is a TV movie. And some people would say A View to a Kill looks as bad as a TV movie.
It feels like one for sure, yeah.
It feels like one.
It doesn't feel like a James Bond movie. It feels like a cheapo...
No, it feels like a cheapo knockoff that they didn't have the money. It feels like a Winnie the Pooh public domain horror film, if you ask me.
Or like a Liam Neeson, like, direct to Redbox, you know?
But have you guys considered Beach Boys?
Yeah, it sucked. I hated it.
Okay, so like I said in the episode, the first 20 minutes, right up until they're in Paris, I think are pretty fun. Then they get to the fucking horse cocks and it becomes horrible.
All right, that was a segue. You guys are talking in the middle of the segue because it is a bad TV movie level quality movie, but it's not as bad as an actual TV movie coming in at 26 with an average rating of 24.75. No, an average ranking of 24.75 and an average rating of 3.5 out of 10, so a lower average rating than A View to a Kill and Casino Royale 1967, is the very first James Bond movie, Casino Royale, 1954.
And now, Casino Royale.
Woo! Back to our first episode.
I think Casino Royale might be just like a bad story. I don't think it works.
I don't think they should make another one.
I just don't think there's any salvaging that.
Yeah, they tried it twice. What would be the point of doing it again?
Oh, I was going to say Jan never gave an adaptation of Casino Royale more than 4 stars. But no, he gave the 1967 one 10 stars. I had forgotten that 5 minutes ago. Never mind.
So listeners will remember our very first episode. I was there.
I remember it well.
Yeah, Jan and Paul were there.
We were there. But just to refresh your memories, Paul, what did you think of Casino
Well, this
Royale?
film that I saw a few months ago in the year 2020,
Yeah.
you'll remember that we discussed fondly that this was a product of an interesting time in which it was very difficult to record television.
Yeah.
And so it was basically a play that was thrown together very quickly and filmed live. And they seem to have selected it because it was people gambling at a table and then pointing guns at each other. And that was the main value of James Bond as a work of fiction, was that it was easily producible.
Adapted.
And years later, what has changed?
It was a contained thriller, as the industry people would say. And it's a little awkward. It was a very narrow window of time where that was even a thing. So you kind of have to try to put on your old-timey bifocals and try to think about how does this
Well,
hold
I don't
up?
know. I've seen a lot of Alfred Hitchcock Presents and that kind of bullshit where they would just like TV show would grab a cheapo book, buy the rights, film it as an episode. There are some pretty good ones. There's some genuinely good episodes of that kind of shit. This one is less than an hour, and halfway through, I literally started playing Subway Surfers on my phone. It is so boring.
Yes, you can tell from the rankings. I put it the highest at 23, and Jan put it at 27. Jan and Jake both gave it 3 stars. Me and Paul both gave it 4, as you remember from the episode. And part of why I think I'm not as hard on it as other people is it has one of my favorite Bond villains in it. Peter Lorre is the best. Lashif listeners of that episode will remember I mainly did it just to talk about Peter Lorre. That's why the podcast exists. Because I love Peter Lorre.
I love Peter Lorre too, and I like him in this, but he's not the best Lashif.
Well, he's not the best Lashif, but he's like the best casting for Lashif.
Yeah.
Because if you're reading the book, it's kind of amazing. Like James Bond, Card Sense Jimmy Bond, as we all know.
Card Sense Jimmy Bond.
Played by Barry Nelson. Nothing like Bond in the book, really.
A CIA agent.
CIA American agent, played by the guy who runs the Overlook. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you got, there's no Vesper, there's Valorine Mathis, which is weird that they would combine Vesper and Mathis into one
The
character.
sexiest Mathis I've ever seen.
Yes.
No, that is also not true.
Mr. Mathis, you're a French police officer, and yet you have a Scots accent.
Ah, it worries me too.
And then the one thing they get right is, like, it's like almost to a T of how Lashif is described in the novel is Peter Lorre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. I'm like, out of all the things that you change, it's like, Lashif. We can get Peter Lorre for that.
That's right.
Paul, it sounded like you were going to agree with me.
I
on
was going
something.
to agree with you, Troy. Yes, it's spot on. That's really by far the most cool and interesting thing about that program is Peter Lorre, even when he's a little confused.
Were you born in the 50s?
Well,
Yeah.
he was born like 100 years before the 50s.
Did you see the new Flintstones program? It was so funny. Sorry.
They slept in the same bed.
I got a wreck just seeing that. I'm sorry, Iraq, as they would say on the Flintstones.
Okay. This is
Iraq.
I can't sanction this buffoonery. But Peter Lorre, even when he's a little confused, when he's kind of just getting it done, just the swag, when he sits down and he's playing the cards, I'm like, this is spot on. It's exactly
No, he's definitely the best thing about this.
the character, and it really goes to show what a treasure those seasoned veteran actors can be, because they will just sit down and look bored and you're like, I buy this guy, you know?
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's one of the GOATs, one of the greatest to ever do it. Also great, Looney Tunes, sporadic character.
Cameos.
They make me laugh.
They make me laugh.
Very distinctive features. But yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like if you adapted this book correctly, this card game sequence could be really riveting. I don't know, because we've never seen a good adaptation of Casino Royale.
Jan agrees. So we all agree Peter Lorre is the best Lashif, and Mads Mikkelsen is a hack fraud of an actor who people just cast because they liked Hannibal, but they didn't watch it. Okay, great. We haven't talked about Barry Nelson at all. I don't think we need to.
Well,
right
I
now.
said that he looks like a football player that's in a tux. He's ready for the prom.
Yes. Jake and Troy went on about how weird his face looks, and I may or may not have been confused for months whether or not Jake had actually photoshopped himself into the thumbnail.
Why would I do that?
That's so mean.
Well, it really, I mean, listeners, you can pull up the thumbnail. It really does look exact. It looks like High School Halloween Party, like, Jake...
I don't take offense to that, because Barry Nelson is actually, he's not a bad looking man, and he's not bad looking man. But why would you think I would do that?
Yeah, when he gets the boner in The Shining, I wanted to touch it. I'm not afraid to admit it.
All right, we're moving on. I don't care about Barry Nelson's erection that
Oh
Jan
yeah, but
wants
don't
to
to wrap
touch.
up, Casino Royale, the program, very boring.
Wait. I also want to give a shout out to the person who watched that episode years after the fact and left a comment. That Sean Connery joke didn't age well, because lest we forget, those first two episodes were done when Sean Connery was still alive. And I think me and Jake, I didn't listen to it in full. I'm pretty sure me and Jake make the joke. I think Jake's like, Sean Connery's going to live forever. We'll have him on the podcast. And I'm like, nope. That's not.
He's gonna die in 2 months, isn't he?
I think I actually did say when we tried to record from Wrestle Love the first time, Jake was like, yeah, Sean's great. I hope he stays around forever. I'm like, Jake, I'm trying to watch all of them before he dies very soon. And Troy Stradamus was correct.
We have summoned ghosts before on the show. I don't think it's an impossibility.
Never say never.
Never say never, baby.
Jan, next time, could you consider being married to Sean Connery?
I was.
And speaking of Sean Connery, our next... Oh, wow. I wasn't even looking. Holy shit, I am Troy Stradamus. I don't even need to predict things anymore.
Stop sucking your own dick and tell us what it is.
My massive erection. I'm gonna drive that joke into the ground. With an average ranking of 24.5 and an average rating of 4 out of 10, one of 3 movies we gave 4 out of 10 to.
Never say never again.
Never say never again. Never say never again.
Kevin's not here. We can finally admit how much we don't like this.
This is not a good movie.
Wait, I thought he's sponsoring this episode.
No, his
fuck, I love it.
his lawyers are sponsoring this episode.
Oh.
We killed Kevin off in the Spectre episode.
His lawyer, Kevin McLaurie, is sponsoring us?
Kevin McCory. He's some sort of banshee. Like, at the end of Darby O'Gill and the Little People, that green banshee that's flying around screaming, that's who Kevin McCory is.
I've always hated this movie. This last time I watched it, I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it because it's weird. It's a weird movie.
Yeah, so we can tell in the rankings, Jan, because you rated it the highest, 21 out of 29, and you also gave it the highest star rating with 5 stars out of 10.
Out of 10? Okay.
Well, it's just like, is watching a 60-year-old James Bond silently game for 10 minutes and then do a ball dance with Kim Basinger right after he threw piss at someone? Is that good? No,
No.
but it's interesting.
No, it's not. It's not even interesting. I thought we came to the conclusion that like the first 40 minutes have the promise of going somewhere, and then
no
the
one
end.
said that except you, Jake.
Well, I stand by that. Like there's some promise as to where this unofficial Bond movie.
We all agreed with Jake that this film set out with the bold take that what if we interrogate an elderly James Bond? That definitely wasn't just a throwaway line to explain why he's so old.
Well, the fact that his age actually plays into the plot in the first 40 minutes, I'm like,
40
okay.
minutes. How about 22?
How about one line?
They don't make them like this anymore.
Right. It's still in pretty good shape.
Well, he goes to the health clinic because he's old, and then there's the whole thing with Spectre coming back, and it's like the past is coming back.
Because he's old. But he goes to the health clinic in Thunderball too. I guess
Yeah,
he was
but
old
it doesn't
then
make
too.
sense in Thunderball. I have to give Never Say Never Again that credit.
Yeah.
That they explain why he goes to a health spa much better. I don't know why he brings a suitcase of caviar. That's odd.
Because, well, we established it's his Lunchable, yeah.
You don't need to explain why Bond goes to a massage parlor. He's James Bond. He wants a happy ending.
I also will say this. I hate to sow division, but while Jake and Paul both rated this 26 out of 29, and even though I gave it the lowest star rating with a 3 out of 10, I did raise my ranking for it. It was the last change I made to my ranking. I moved it up one higher because, yes, it's messy, but Fatima Blush's death.
That whole character is pretty good.
I would trade all of Quantum of Solace for Fatima Blush's death.
Yeah, sure.
The greatest rapture in my life was afforded me in a boat in Nassau by Fatima Blush.
I see you, I hear you.
Well, and overall, I'll just say this. It has a lot of parts that are really boring and stale. Has also some really wacky, interesting parts. They're not good, but they make me raise my eyebrow. You know?
I do have to say that since we recorded this episode, my mom texted me going like, hey, I'm watching Never Say Never Again with your grandpa. I'm going to see how it is. And then she texts me, that was the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. And she's like traumatized because of the James Bond tangoing scene. She's
It's
like,
very silly.
what the hell am I looking at?
I thought No Time to Die killed your grandpa.
No, it gave him a stroke, but then they watched... Well, Never Say Never Again is a flat line of a movie, so it's...
Oh, so this is the one that actually...
I was going to say, your mom really wants that inheritance money. If No Time to Die didn't kill her, what do you Never Say Never?
She's just showing him all the worst Bond movies.
Well, the thing is that my grandpa had already seen it back in the 80s. He's like, yeah, I saw that. And then they rewatched it, and they're just like, oh. And then my mom's like, did we watch this when you were younger? I'm like, yeah, you bought it for me on DVD. I had it playing on a lot when I was a kid. And she's like, why would I do that? This movie is awful.
I think it's the worst ranked toupee also. Looks really fucking bad.
No. Not as bad as Diamonds Are Forever.
Well, yeah.
I think we did sort of defend the toupee, although I still maintain it's weird just because we're not used to seeing him look like that. You know, Connery was past that.
Yeah, also we gotta say one more time, Michel Legrand, one of the greatest composers of all time.
Yes.
This is one of the worst compositions of all time.
Yeah,
This music is dog shit.
This is like he's tried to sabotage the movie. I think they had some other composer that was supposed to do it, and I don't remember because I just found that out later. I'm like, someone else was supposed to do it, and then they got Michel Legrand, and then Michel Legrand's just like, I don't know how to score an action movie.
Yeah, it would have been better if he just farted into the microphone for 40 minutes.
And it gave us Troy's favorite song, which is also
Never.
The
never
worst
say
one.
never.
The worst one.
the worst one.
It just misses. We won't be doing full rankings of the songs, but yes, I have them. And yes, Never Say Never Again does make my top 10. Let me just see real quick.
Okay, Paul, what were you saying? And
it brought the great debate of if you make a trash James Bond movie that doesn't have a gun barrel, does it awaken the sleeper agent of like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, these movies are bad.
No. Okay, well, here's the difference is that that the Bond flavor kind of, it's that extra spice. So, like there's
it's the season, it's the sauce. It's
Jon
sauce.
Favreau sprinkling things on the
it is. It really is.
Salt Bay.
No, but like I don't think an official movie would be so bold as to have like the last half of the movie just be Sean Connery like asleep. Basically, as he's like walking from place to place and his clothes are disappearing from shot to shot.
I'm sorry, but you just described A View to a Kill, basically, but with Roger Moore instead
Roger
of Sean
Moore's
Connery.
at least clothed most of the time.
Jake, Roger Moore is fully nude when he tickles that woman Tchaikovsky in A View to a Kill. You take that back.
Yeah,
We do
it's
see
gross.
a
Well,
fully
he's nude,
Roger
but at
Moore.
least we see him get into a pool. It's not like he's fully clothed and he dives in and then his clothes are gone.
You're describing the same thing, Jake. It's the same
They're the same picture, but one doesn't have a gun barrel.
At least he's having sex with a woman in a hot tub.
And A View to a Kill doesn't have that incredible
the Golden Gate
Felix
Bridge.
scene where he says, "It's gonna be your ass, James."
It's going to be your ass, James. Thank you.
Yes, you're correct.
I will give it points for that.
And it has Klaus Maria Brandauer. Come on.
And Max von Sydow for like 2 seconds.
2 seconds. But Klaus is legitimately pretty damn good.
I mean,
but
where
anyway.
I land on that is Eon, when they're on the ball, they do put a lot of care into making James Bond. Never Say Never Again is made with the care of fan fiction and just wanting more money.
Yeah.
Because most of the Bond movies are like, we don't have a script, but we can make an action scene. Here it's just like, we can't really afford an action scene. Let's hang out in the Bahamas. Let's hang out in this Moroccan castle, which is actually in France.
The motorcycle scene's pretty good, though.
That's pretty good.
Tight action.
But it's just wrong. It's wrong that Sean Connery is playing Bond this late.
And it doesn't hit as well when you're seeing is Sean Connery as James Bond in a tuxedo on a motorcycle and you don't have the John Barry score.
Yeah, but also you don't have Sean Connery caring enough to even
And
do
that
a
too.
performance.
The lesson to all of this is stop remaking Thunderball. For the love of
It's
God,
not
stop.
a good one.
Kevin, if you're listening to this, get help. Stop it.
We
Get
are
help.
your friends. We love you. We don't like seeing you like this. Stop trying to make this movie.
I'm just going to play a little bit from our good friend Michael Jordan.
Stop it. Get some help. McDonald's wants you to give yourself a chance to find out all the wonderful things you really can be. And so do I.
Don't remake Thunderball.
Oh, I thought you were not going to waste our time with that and you were just going to edit the clip in later and I could move on. Okay, so we had a movie. These movies all have the same average rating, but all of their rankings were different.
Interesting.
So next up, I just double-checked my song list. Never Say Never Again as a title song comes in as 14. The movie above it that comes in at 13 on my song list. And holy crap, where are we? 24 on this list with an average ranking of 24.25 and an average rating of 4 stars is Quantum of Solace.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck are you singing? That's
the worst Daniel Craig movie.
I was afraid for a second. I thought you were doing You Know My Name.
I thought he was doing the outro to the Looney Tunes.
Quantum of Solace is not a finished movie. It's not good.
Quantum of Solace is neck and neck with Spectre for me, but I still think it's less enjoyable. It's probably my least favorite Craig one. It's very bad.
Yeah, no, it's my least favorite Craig one, too. I remembered it having good moments and being a slightly more polished For Your Eyes Only on a first watch. I don't think any movie fell farther in my estimation on a rewatch.
There's very little value.
It's not finished.
The action scenes aren't good. The story isn't good. I mean, yeah, fucking, you can make an hour-long YouTube video about like, oh, the story's genius because it's actually about, yeah, and like we've said many times before in the podcast, yeah. That's what it's about. How is it executed? Poorly, boring, not good.
It's also interesting because those videos, I think we do bring this up in the episode, but every single one of those videos has a completely different takeaway as to what is actually happening.
A surrealist masterpiece.
I guess you could say that. No, this is a movie where it is supposed to be exploring Bond's feelings, but because they didn't have a script, they're just like, whatever, let's get the guy who did Finding Neverland to direct like the worst action scenes of the 21st century. Actually, it's not that bad. Alex Cross is much worse, but it's still pretty bad.
What was I going to say real quick? I am consistent. I have it both the lowest ranked at 26 on my list, and I gave it 3 out of 10. You can say you want a James Bond movie to be 96 minutes until it actually happens and you realize that it's not a movie. Like, it's nothing. However, we have a discrepancy. Paul ranked it the highest at 22 on his list.
Still not great.
Jake gave it the highest rating at 5, which means both Jan and Paul gave it 4.
Yeah. Despite it not working as a movie, as a sequel to Casino Royale especially, it is still, I guess, somewhat functional if you view it as like the long lost sequel to Taken. Like if it's like if they just put like directed by Oliver Megaton or something like that, and they put it in Redbox, it's just like, it fits as like one of those movies. And also there are 2 other movies in the Craig era that I dislike even more.
Oliver Megaton is the best name for a cheapo action movie director.
They should have just put Oliver Megaton.
Oliver Megaton. Yeah, that should be the new Alan Smithy. If you're embarrassed about something, just blame it on Oliver Megaton.
I guess we're sort of in agreement that, I think Quantum of Solace is not great, but I was more entertained, and it didn't completely miss the point of like these movies compared to 2 other Daniel Craig productions. So.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's more on track and like what the story here should be, but my experience of it is more painful because it's like this and A View to a Kill. That they feel the longest out of any of this, and I think this was the shortest.
Yeah, and it's the shortest one except for Barry Nelson. And it feels so long because it's not going anywhere, and it's not nice to look at. Like, look, we all agree No Time to Die is bad and that Spectre is a masterpiece. But I think
we all agree it's a masterpiece moving on.
And why scientifically, I think we put Quantum of Solace so low is that every part of it is the worst Craig film according to science. And I think that
facts don't care about your feelings, all right?
We gotta bring out, what's the fucking YouTuber who has like an hour-long like review of Last Jedi who talks about like, this movie's objectively bad. I'm gonna tell you why.
Oh, is that Mauler?
Yeah, we gotta bring that guy to explain why movies are objectively bad.
So to begin, I think it makes sense to talk a bit about objectivity, considering that will be the baseline for this assessment. Star Wars The Last Jedi was panned quite thoroughly across much of YouTube, but since it's part of such a popular franchise, it had plenty of fans screaming,
Oh, for fuck's sake. We should have him on in an episode and just have like a 24-hour continuing on episode.
Only one openly autistic person on the podcast. We don't talk about these other people.
Sorry, Lord Autism.
I do want to say one more thing before we move on. I know in the Quantum of Solace episode, I joked twice. I did a joke going like, if you like this movie, go fuck yourself. And then I did a callback to that joke. And the joke was, I doubled down on it.
Yeah.
Like I want to be real with you guys like about that, because I know that some people will get mad when they hear that or offended.
Yeah, don't be mean to people who like it.
I don't want to shit on your opinions, and if you like it, you like it. But you should know you're fucking wrong. You're an idiot. You should go fuck yourself. I hate you.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Go fuck off.
All right, Angry Joe. I respect that you took time out to explain that people have different opinions, but still go fuck yourself. If we're here taking back all the jokes that we say over the course of the show, this episode's never ending.
It'll be like a Mauler episode.
Yeah.
You know how many letters Paul gets from the Woodrow Wilson Historical Society to stop sexualizing him?
I am recording from Bristol. It's horrible.
It's horrible. No, one day I'm going to go to Bristol and I'm going to get Mark David Chapman That would be my like closest to John Lennon.
Every day I wake up and I go to Bristol and I hope that you won't be there.
The last picture of Troy is him signing like the podcast for the Prime Minister of Bristol, and the guy's
Bristol.
looking at him like angry.
And it's unfortunate that I've discovered a James Bond review podcast, and they're from Bristol a few
They
days
seem
ago.
very nice.
And they
they're
seem very
basically-
nice, and it's
They're
fun.
basically like the Black Lodge version of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, well, we're the Black Lodge version, but yes,
Yeah. We're the edgy ones. Yeah.
we are the frowning friends.
Yeah, we're the frowning friends. So
All right, that's it. I have no time to talk about this crappy movie anymore, The City of Bristol.
what do you have time for?
Because coming in at movie 23, with once again an average rating of 4 stars, but a slightly higher ranking average of 23.5. I'm sorry, Daniel Craig, we're not letting you off the hook. It's No Time to Die.
Yeah, that should be even lower in my opinion.
It should be even lower, but actually, no, it's in about the right
Wait,
spot.
is your math wrong, Choice the
No, my math is right. Just let me look at what I gave it. It should be 1 lower, according to me. This is the correct rating. Unfortunately, even though Jake gave it 28 out of 29. Jesus.
Oh my
Yep.
god.
You put it lower than Live and Let Die.
I
Jake.
did. I Live and Let Die.
Okay. Even I'm not that much of a fanboy.
Live and Let Die is a very boring movie, but in some weird way is more functional of a movie than No Time to Die.
Yeah, but what's its function?
Live and Let Die is vile and stupid, which is what these movies are all about. This movie tries to be like good and smart. This is not what this is about, man.
This is a movie that dares to ask the question, is James Bond a superhero and a good man? And the question has always been no. That's the core thing about the character.
He's the worst guy ever. He's the worst. That's why we like him.
And like we said before, we're going to keep driving this home. Him dying is not really an issue. It is an issue.
It's an issue. I'm going to be honest. It's stupid. Why would you kill James Bond? What
It's
does
how
it
he
add?
dies and everything preceding
it's
it.
how he dies. It's like, if you're going to do it, you got to have the whole movie support the ideas that are introduced with the death of James Bond. But the problem is, the ideas that are introduced with the death of James Bond are fundamentally opposed to what the character is about, and is not really growth, really, because they don't really do anything with it, because the first half is like an hour and a half fun Bond movie, and then there's middling office nonsense, and then he dies.
You can't give this motherfucker a hero's death. He's not Batman. He's horrible.
Also, I take it back. I will say that I actually do enjoy one story that kills James Bond. It's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Tempest, where James Bond gets a pool of eternal life, shoots Woody Allen in the back of the head, assembles a team of Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig to form a Spice Girls team up to assault the human imagination, at which point James Bond nukes the concept of imagination, creating the apocalypse that leads to the Planet of the Apes and the Terminator movies. And then finally, the refugees of the human imagination go to outer space, and James Bond tries to follow, but then Emma Peel, played by Diana Rigg in The Avengers, finds him and finally takes revenge on shooting him in the face. She was also the Judi Dench M, so she shoots him. And then Alan Moore was like, I retire from comic books.
That does sound more interesting, making James
Yes.
Bond like a Ra's al Ghul type immortal.
Yes. The best part is at the beginning of it, he's like 100 years old before he finds like the pool of life. He's 100 years old and he has so much syphilis that Daniel Craig Bond is like his nurse and has to like redo his IQ.
Okay, so don't hate me. I have this movie at number 17.
You fucker.
And Jan gave it a 6 out of 10. Boo!
5.9.
No, I listened to the episode. 6 out of 10.
It's pretty much right down the middle. The reason to me is because I think the second half is horrible. I still think First half is a lot of fun, very on point, and it has mostly very good filmmaking.
Basic.
Yeah, I'm a basic bitch. Leave me alone. Let me go smoke my vape pen.
You know what's really funny? Paul and I watched Last Action Hero last week, and that is a giant mess of a movie where nothing makes sense. Kind of similar problems with No Time to Die, not in the fact that it kills the main character and fundamentally doesn't understand what the character's about. I mean, in some ways it does, but that's a different subject. But I'm like, why do I like this piece of trash, messy movie, and not this piece of trash, messy movie? And I'm like, well, the thing is about No Time to Die, there isn't a rubber baby buggy bumpers. There's the Cuba scene, but that's just like a small section of the movie, and most of it is just kind of miserable.
Yes.
Or like weirdly funny but
it's a slog.
But it looks so pretty.
Oh, for Christ's sake, Jan. All right, Troy Stradamus is putting his editorial foot down. I will say we're only 7 movies into this countdown. If we want to all do it in one episode, we need to stop re-summarizing entire episodes. Yes, I'm the captain now. I'm producer Troy.
Oh, no.
All right, what's next, producer Troy?
All right, so we have been picking on many James Bonds here. We've picked on Roger Moore a lot. We've picked on David Niven and Barry Nelson. We've picked on Sean Connery, and we just picked a lot on Daniel Craig. So it's time to pick on a new James Bond. That's right. Roger Moore. He made another bad one with an average rating of 5.20.
First so many.
Roger Moore making a bad James Bond movie?
With
No.
an average rating of 5.25 out of 10 and an average ranking of 21.5, we have Moonraker.
Just like the moonraker goes.
This one hurts, man.
Okay, let's have Paul talk about this one.
Yeah, so this is Paul's favorite Bond movie of all time.
That he gave a 5 out of 10. He gave it a 5 out of 10, listeners.
Yeah, well, it's on the. I mean, it's kind of a high 5 anyway. But
I was going to say, listeners, real quickly, while I was making this, me and Paul had a private discussion where we were both like, we can trust our ratings to be consistent, but Jake and Jan.
I was consistent.
No, you were not.
Yes, I was with my ranking.
I wasn't. I'll totally give it to you.
Jan will be.
I think that's why I love these movies. They're living, they're breathing. They can be the best thing ever one day and the worst piece of shit I've ever seen the next. The same movie.
Yeah. I can trust my rankings because I put it together in like 30 minutes, like without thinking about it, you know.
My ranking has been 28 years in the making.
My ranking is, well, the stuff I said on the podcast does not reflect my letterbox rankings some of the time. So then I had to remember.
My words do not reflect my thoughts.
My opinions on the podcast do not reflect my actual thoughts.
H Bomber guy, come after me. I'm a fraud. I plagiarized all my thoughts.
Guys, I've alluded to this sometimes when I've been sending a coded message. Whenever I call Jake a fake James Bond fan on a podcast episode, I mean it. He actually does not like James Bond. It's actually Paul who loves James Bond the most.
Yes, actually.
Plot twist.
I mean, he's the man that loves Moonraker and Casino Royale.
I enjoy the Kino. Moonraker to me is a flawed film, but this is close to my heart as one of the. I can't really say it's bad. It's not super successful, but it is exactly my kind of schlock.
Oh, you watch a new Bev with Tarantino, and that's why you like it.
Well, that maybe helps, but there's warmth because we have Jaws, and there's so many funny bits.
That pigeon.
Yeah, I think. On the schlock scale, you know, it's a little more of a real movie than Casino Royale 1967, and it's not quite as much of a real movie as Die Another Day, but they're on a similar spectrum.
Okay, all right, cut his mic. This is enough of that nonsense. Moonraker has beautiful outer space vistas.
It does.
Die Another Day has PS1 graphics. The debate is over.
Which makes it better, in my opinion.
God damn it.
Moonraker or Die Another Day?
Oh, Die Another Day. But yeah, Lewis Gilbert is like my second favorite Bond director ever. He directed nothing but bangers. And then this one came, and this is like such a thrown together, we want to do a sci-fi thing because Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes, it has some wonderful campy moments. I love Joss. I love Joss. I love Joss's girlfriend. I love Joss.
Hey, you love the Bolo monks.
And the monks. The monks are great. And Joss.
And the pigeon.
Yeah, the pigeon. Don't forget the pigeon.
Okay, the half second of the pigeon.
And the near-death Q experience.
You know what? They're turning me over. I like this movie.
As I may have alluded to, there's a lot of mediocre Bond movies, and this is one of them. But I think it's the most charming of the mediocre.
Well, no, it's like on paper, this should be like one of my favorite ones by far because it's so goofy. But you brought up a good point, Troy, on one of the episodes. Like the worst kind of Bond movies are the kind of like lazy thrown together ones where they have like good moments, but most of them is just Bond going to a room and talking, and then him going to another room and talk, and that's most of this movie. So this one hurts, because I should love it. But the overall experience is very boring.
Yeah, it's just his rooms in this movie are so random. Like he's in France and California, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why are we in this?
Exactly. No, it's one of those movies where you're just like, it doesn't have anything like egregiously like funny, like in a, I'm trying to think of a so bad.
Die Another Day.
Like a Die Another Day thing, or a Diamonds Are Forever kind of thing, where there's just like a series of like, what the fuck? Or I was walking my rat and I seem to have lost my way. There's like little spikes throughout, but most of it, is kind of a dooze, which is unfortunate because it's Bond going into space. And I went back into watching this kind of going like, okay, maybe this one's fun. And it's
the
like,
space stuff is so boring.
But it's also boring.
I like the space stuff, but also
the space stuff is the better parts of the movie, but all the stuff before that is so boring.
It's a frustrating watch because Louis Gilbert is such a good director, and this movie looks amazing at parts.
Yes.
But this ain't it, man.
Though I do have to say, on my list, I put it after For Your Eyes Only, and I regret that. I should have put it ahead.
Interesting segue, Jake, because coming in. All right, what number are we at? I've lost track.
You didn't write it down?
I didn't know. I didn't write down
this guy. He's taken on the producer role. He's bragging about his autism, and he can't even do math.
I'm an autistic person who's bad at math. My secret is revealed. But the rankings, I double checked the rankings and the average rating. So these hold up. So at 21, Jake, great segue. With an average rating of 4.875, so lower than Moonraker, but a ranking of 21.25, so slightly higher than Moonraker, is For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah. This is a movie that has been reevaluated as like, this is actually one of the hidden gems. It's not. It's really boring.
Roger Moore is wrong for this version of Bond. It's mostly boring. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, this is Bond on autopilot. It's so paint by numbers. Nothing exciting or surprising happens except Topol. Topol's innocent.
Topol's great. The music also by Bill Conti. The theme song,
awful.
The theme song is great. The score is awful.
Bad. Yeah. So yeah, moving on.
Wait, real quick. Me and Paul actually have interesting opinions on this one.
Oh, god damn it. We were doing
it's not all the Jake and Jan show.
This podcast is not about interesting opinions.
Yes,
it's about autism.
All right, okay. Me and Paul have the biggest disparity in that Paul gave it an average rating of 4 stars and an average ranking of 23, while I gave it the highest in the group. I gave it 5 stars and a ranking of 19.
Okay.
This grew on rewatch for me. I like the action. I hate the story. It's a mess. Why does Topol get to take revenge? Why is James Bond flirting with a child?
Why does Topol look like Vegas?
It looks like Vegas. Why does it look like Vegas?
Why does Topol look like Vegas? But John Glenn is having some fun, so while it's not good, I give it a 5 out of 10.
Oh, and well, we got to mention the Margaret Thatcher phone sex with a parrot.
Give us a kiss. Give us a kiss.
Oh, well, really, Mr. Bond.
Oh, yeah, and the Margaret Thatcher phone sex.
Oh,
That
one
is
of the
fun.
best post-climax scenes, literally.
Yeah.
Apart from that, yeah, very boring. It's trying to do a more serious Ian Fleming-y Bond, but not committing, so it just comes out really half-baked.
Yeah.
Jan walked in on his parents having sex to the ending of For Your Eyes Only, and that's why he's a leftist.
Yeah, that is the worst thing Margaret Thatcher ever did, was that scene.
Oh, well, we're at 20 now.
Yeah, this is where we do our little palate cleanser.
Yeah, timestamp.
Yes.
We're going to take a break from our ranking, and we're going to be talking about Bond villains and Bond girls. We each picked out a favorite Bond villain and a Bond girl. So,
Yeah.
Troy, would you like to go first?
Oh, shit. You know I have a document for this that I'm looking at.
Jan, would you like to go first?
Okay, honorable mentions. The two wacky guys from Octopussy.
For Bond girl?
Yes. So, okay, villains. Two wacky guys from Octopussy. Love them. The Korean white guy from Die Another Day. Charles Gray, Diamonds Are Forever. Telly Savalas, my favorite Blofeld. My top three would be Raul Silva.
We can either eat each other.
Elliot Carver.
Outstanding.
Love the shit out of Elliot Carver. So wacky and wonderful. Number one favorite villain of all time, Dominic Green.
Sounds like you just lost another one.
Shut up.
No,
Jan.
it's Mads. It's Lashif.
You are a funny man, Mr. Bond.
Mads Mikkelsen is one of my favorite working actors today. He is not a wacky Bond villain. He is not megalomaniacal or anything, but he is terrific in this movie. He's a little bitch boy. He cries blood. He is always getting shat on. Bond doesn't even kill him. He doesn't even die in the climax. And that's what I think makes him cool. He is just such a fucking weasel.
It subverts the Bond villain.
Yes.
Is why you like it. The very Ryan Johnson approach.
He's my favorite, babe. Matt's.
All right. I was nominated to go next, so I will just do really quickly. This one actually changed my opinion. So my top, I put Christoph Waltz's Blofeld as higher than Louis Jordan.
What the fuck?
That's not true. Put him one lower than that. So my top 5 is Scaramanga, Christopher Lee with a golden gun. Beautiful choice. You can't go wrong.
Must admit, Mr. Bond, I am now undeniably the man with the golden gun.
Spoiler alert. Number 4, she didn't make my top 5 Bond girls, but she did top 5 villains. Electra King.
There's no point in living if you can't feel alive.
I love her. She's crazy. She doesn't have an ear. She's gonna kill you. Uh-oh. Number 3, the improved version of Blofeld, Stromberg from The Spy Who Loved Me.
By creating a world, a new and beautiful world beneath the sea.
No, but okay.
He's good. I like him.
Love that movie. Not a great villain.
Great.
He's
great. Number 2, this hurt. This guy used to be my number 1 until this rewatch. Goldfinger, the gold standard.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
And I would say in terms of villainy per movie, Goldfinger has the best villains because you get Goldfinger and Hot Job, iconic power duo, and the greatest Bond villain of all time that I have just decided is Elliot Carver from Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
Let the mayhem begin.
Yeah, he's great.
He is both the most realistic Bond villain and the most over the top. That's what makes him so beautiful.
Objectively correct.
He is having so much fun. He is so evil and so petty. He's evil Citizen Kane, and I am here for it with his tippy-tap fingers and his kung fu.
His surfing fingers over that keyboard.
Love him. And he killed Paris Carver, which I still think is the darkest moment of one of the darkest moments of the series.
There we go. I'm going to second you, Troy, because Elliot Carver is a banger. He is a live-action Simpsons character.
This is our moment.
Brought to life by Jonathan Pryce, who has a ball, and there's a lot to like. I don't know if I have honorable mentions.
Dominic Green.
All of them are Dominic Green.
Everybody gets a participation trophy.
Wait, Lucifer Satan gets a participation?
No. I'm sorry.
I'm not angry.
Wait. Chris Tatos gets a participation.
this discourage you?
So Jake,
all great picks for your top villains. You know, there's a lot of great villains to choose. Goldfinger.
Many people have tried to involve themselves in my affairs, unsuccessfully.
Any of the Blofelds, but particularly for me, I really like Charles Gray.
Good evening, Mr. Bond.
Slightly more than Telly Savalas.
Well, if you put it like that.
I do put it like that.
And then you also have Franz Sanchez is also up there for me.
Oh, I love him,
Very charismatic. He's very charming and also terrifying.
I want you to know this is nothing personal. It's purely business.
Mads is great.
You must have thought I was bluffing, Mr. Bond.
I came down to two choices, though.
Dominic Green and...
It was Dominic Green and Lucifer Safin, actually. I think they're both like the greatest foes ever to go up against James Bond. No.
They really get under Bond's skin.
Yes, they really get under Bond's skin.
He really doesn't like them. He has a reason to kill them.
I was swinging back and forth between these two. One of them was Elliot Carver, who, like you said, Simpsons villain. A lot of people are put off by how over the top he is. I think that just adds to it. He just, once you see him, he just stays in your mind forever. And the way he just enjoys being evil is so fun to watch. But he has to be number 2 for my number 1 pick. And my number 1 pick is Gustav Graves.
Oh, look! Parachutes for the both of us! Whoops! Not anymore!
Yeah! I thought you were going to say Raul Silva. I'm so happy.
Oh, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jake, do your explanation, but I do want to make the observation that everyone talks about how great, like, oh, you need Blofeld to do Bond. There's been court cases fought over needing Blofeld to do Bond, and that Raul Silva was a game-changing villain for Bond. None of us picked either.
Raul Silva, so I do want to include him in my top list, too, because he's also fantastic.
Yeah, he's up there, and so's Blofeld.
But Gustav Graves, I mean... He is a North Korean general that has changed
his race
into a British fop. And it's very similar to the Goldfinger relationship. We do get into it in our Die Another Day episode. But he is just cranked up to 11. It's like if Goldfinger was even more petty, if you can even imagine it. And on top of that, he has a Buzz Lightyear suit that he controls a giant space laser.
If Goldfinger was secretly Korean.
Wait, but Goldfinger is basically an honorary Korean because he surrounds himself with Koreans.
Yeah,
exclusively.
Toby Stevens, he was given the weirdest assignment as a Bond villain. A man who is formerly a Korean colonel, who has changed his race to a British fop, and he just owns it. Like, he's able to play like the over-the-top nature. There's the sadness with the relationship with his father that he also sells, which also was very funny because it is sandwiched in between like him going like, oh look, parachutes for the both of us. He has a great death. He's just pure anarchy, this man, and I love him to death. And it was really hard for me to choose my favorite villains because there's a bunch. There's a bunch that are good, but Gustav Graves right now is in my top.
I do want to just give some shout out to some great villain quotes from some of our selections. Goldfingers. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Gustav Graves. Oh, look, parachutes for the both of us. Not anymore. And Elliot Carver's like, I once played cards with a British beef baron.
Angus Black, the British beef baron.
Beef baron.
Angus Black, the great British beef baron.
So, Bond girls. This is an easy one for me because there are only about 4 Bond girls that I remotely like. Number 4, it's my gal, Mary Goodnight.
Yes, you bloody well would.
Britt Eglin herself. I will be a defender eternally of this woman.
She's almost like on par with Rosie and how embarrassing her part is.
She's so great, man. Amazing performance, amazing character. I mean, if we're counting as M in Skyfall, I guess I'll throw her in, but not really.
No.
I fucked this up, didn't I?
My number 3 is Pussy Galore.
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
Great.
Very good.
Character, very fun. These two are obviously everyone's top 2. My number 2 is Tracy.
Lie dawn, O master of the world. Lie dawn. For thee the sunlight creeps across the lawn.
From Secret Service. Great acting. She's beautiful. She's radiant. She's very strong. Shining light of that movie. My number one, obviously, is Telly Savalas as Blofeld.
Yes.
I do put it like that.
I'm glad somebody said it.
Very beautiful, very talented, and also Eva Green as Vesper Lind.
I'm the money.
Every penny of it.
Hands down, one of the best characters in the series, the best woman character in this series. Amazing performance, amazing dialogue. Her chemistry with Craig is off the charts. Very complicated, good story for her, equal to Bond, checks all the boxes. She's elevated from just a Bond girl. She's just a great character.
All right. I'm actually going to do, let me hear. I'm going to do a top 10 of Bond girls.
Whoa.
Because I feel we didn't give them the proper deal. But I'll breeze through it. I'm the captain now. I can pace myself. All right. So number 10, Paris Carver.
What was it, James? Did I get too close?
Aw. I feel bad for her.
Okay.
She got screwed. 9, Tiffany Case is fun, damn it.
I'm very impressed.
Jill St. John is having a great time, and I'm having a great time watching her.
Are some hot takes.
Number 8, Octopussy.
James.
One of the smartest women, and truly one of, like, I could see her being endgame for James Bond.
The weakest part of that movie.
No, she's great. She has her own cult of ninjas.
I agree.
I wouldn't get colored the
I mean, maybe not her performance. Okay, go on.
7, Tracy.
That may come too. Someday.
Yeah, Diana Riggs.
That low. Wow.
What?
She could maybe be in a bit more of the movie if she wanted
not
to
her
be a
fault.
little higher. Yes, it is. 6, Kara from The Living Daylights.
Stubborn, stupid.
You're calling me a horse's ass.
I like that romance. That's sweet. It's a very sweet
I like her
romance.
too. She
Do not remember a single thing about this woman.
one of the only ordinary Bond women.
Yes, and I like that juxtaposition. Though they do it slightly better in what's coming up. Number 5, I love Pussy Galore.
You can turn off the charm. I'm immune.
I also think number 5, Pussy Galore is a great Bond. Oh, all right, that joke didn't land. Honor Blackman does a great job as Pussy Galore.
I get it now.
Pussy.
All right, we're moving on. Number 4, this is my crush. I am being objective here, but Claudine Auger as Domino is the hottest Bond girl in my view.
How do you know my friends call me Domino?
Oh, yeah.
The prettiest Bond villain is, of course, Louis Jourdan in Octopussy.
Octopussy.
Or Gustav Graves.
An hour on the Dream Machine keeps me sane.
But, and Sophie Marceau. But the hottest Bond girl is Claudine Auger in Thunderball. She needed more to do, and she would be higher if that was the case, but it's not. Number 3, I love this endgame romance for James Bond. Madeline Swan, Inspector.
You know, I think you're wrong.
Not in No Time to Die.
No, she's
only
horrible.
Inspector. I love seeing their courtship and them dealing with their trauma. Number 2, of course, Vesper Lind.
Of course.
Of course.
And that makes perfect sense.
And number 1, the Bond girl that showed us these movies are real cinema. That totally made the whole series worth watching to me. Agent Triple X. Anya, played by Barbara Bach in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Paul just did a genuine facepalm.
Bond girl. My favorite Bond girl, and you can still eat my shorts.
This is Triple X. Message received and understood.
She is what makes that movie great for me. She ties it all together. She is the true partner to James Bond.
Well, that's your opinion.
All power to you. Love that movie. Disagree.
Live your truth.
All right, all you guys, go ahead and put everyone from Casino Royale.
No. I'm actually giving you some respect because it's not going to be like everyone saying Vesper. So
yeah. No, I was going to say you guys are all just going to say Vesper. Because you just go, I like the Bond girls who died at the end. I like the Bond girl. I like Bond girls who live at the end.
I like Bond girls that don't get captured.
No, I can't say that because Anya does get captured. All
right, Paul, who is your favorite?
Okay, I'm going to be such a maverick, and I'm going to say that Eva Green as Vesper Lind was the best.
Am I going to have a problem with you, Bond?
But if it had gone down... If it was me making On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it would have gone down very different, let me tell you. But yeah, in a different movie, Diana Rigg would, her excellent performance would be better served, and maybe that would take the lead position, but sadly, no.
After watching Secret Service, Paul was like, I am enlisting in the MI6. No bride will suffer like this on my watch ever again.
I will do British imperialism to protect the Italian women played by English women. No, she's great. If I was just going off performance, then yeah, Diana Rigg is top 3. Because she's great. We all love Diana Rigg.
Okay, well, there's a good number of Bond women to choose from. Troy, you listed a bunch. Some of them I disagree with being in a top 10, but that's fair. It is your list. But yeah, there's Pussy Galore. Wei Lin is also really fun.
Decadent agent of a corrupt Western power.
I don't know if we count Ana de Armas, but I would also throw her in there.
I know. I've done 3 weeks training.
Ana de Armas. Honestly, Fatima Blush, I'm surprised no one said.
You know that making love to Fatima was the greatest pleasure of your life?
She's a villain. Ana de Armas is a co-worker. He does not have sex. Well, he does have sex with Fatima.
Still a Bond girl.
She's a girl. She's with Bond.
What about that girl in Philadelphia?
There was this girl in Philadelphia.
That's the top.
Yeah, she
obviously.
Has to be the best one.
She wins by default. My top 2, of course, Tracy.
Infuriating me.
Most of it is Diana Rigg giving a lot of life into that character because you kind of wish that there was more, but when Bond is cornered at the ice rink, it's probably one of the best scenes of the movie just when she shows up because it's just like, oh my God, I love this girl because they hung out at a beach and he stopped her from killing herself one time.
That's also Die Another Day.
That's also Die Another Day.
It is also Die Another Day.
That scene is great, and you actually, like, you buy into their romance even though there isn't a lot going into that. And of course, that's why my number 1 pick is the woman that changed Bond's life, the woman that probably has the biggest impact on the entire series.
Mary Goodnight.
Close.
Yes.
My choice is Madeline Swan.
If we only had more time.
Correct.
No. Fuck Madeline Swan. She wishes that she was my actual pick, Vesper.
I will be keeping my eye on our government's money and off your perfectly formed house.
There's nothing really more to say about Vesper. The repertoire between her and Daniel Craig is just amazing. Just how this is the one person that like actually like digs deep into them, and you actually see the building of this relationship, even though really the relationship blossoms in like a week or so, but they make a meal out of those scenes they have together, with their first introduction, with the shower scene, with her visiting him in the hospital.
The full-on penetration.
I'm going to be basic here. I'm not going to pull a Gustav Graves here with this one. You can't, because it's Vesper.
It's clearly, and she's the hottest one in my opinion.
And she's definitely up there.
Piggybacking off that, I forgot to really take unofficial Bond movies into account, so I do have 2 more honorable mentions. To quote Jan, Jacqueline Bisset is the hottest woman I've ever seen in my life, and she's in Casino Royale. So very important to point this out.
Another win.
Another hottest woman I've ever seen in my life is Lois Maxwell with a gun in OK Connor.
Hey, actually, Bernard Lee's legs is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
Feminine legs are the best Bond girl.
Yeah. So we all agree Telly Savalas is the best Bond girl.
By far.
Now we're out of the dregs. We're into the movies. We all kind of like. We all think they're pretty good.
Wait a minute. There are a few we haven't covered yet.
Yes, there are. Maybe I was lying about Madeline Swan being my 3rd favorite Bond girl because it's actually Tracy, because I'm basic. But, you know, I can't lie about how much I love number 20 with an average rating of 5 out of 10, but an average ranking of 20.25. The writing's on the wall, Inspector!
Boo, boo. If it wasn't for you, this would be number 28, maybe.
Yeah.
Number 28 was what Paul listed it as, and he listed it as the lowest.
Whoa, what?
You all went higher than 28.
I was at 27.
Do we really need to explain why this one? This is almost universally hated by Bond fans. It's dumb, it's boring, it's dull.
And yet, Troy persevered.
This is a Bond movie. Because I didn't get to talk on the episode, I was silenced by the big media conglomerate. But now that this is Troy's episode, it's so great to have a Bond movie where the themes and the artistry are all in one. And it's actually about Bond dealing with how crappy it is that he's James Bond and finally moving on in a bold finale to the series that brings back Blofeld. And an admittedly silly twist.
It's not the finale even to this guy's tenure.
Yeah, no.
It should have been. In my mind, it is. But yeah, it's fun to see MI6 go on one last adventure. Daniel Craig finally is with women who are adults and don't just drop dead.
But they have no chemistry.
Oh, I love their chemistry. Yes, please talk to me about taking me to therapy.
He has chemistry with one character in this movie, the fucking mouse that he wants to shoot in the face.
I buy he wants to fuck that mouse more than he wants to fuck Madeline Swan.
When he looks at it, and I was like, is he gonna have sex with the mouse?
Yes.
What's that you working for?
Oh, that was so awesome.
Do it. Do it. So yes, Paul ranked it the lowest. Jake rated it the lowest. I put it at number 2. It's the first movie we've come to in the countdown to get a 10 out of 10 from somebody. Well, wait, no, because Jan gave Casino Royale 10 out of 10. Never mind.
Well, you tried to inflate the numbers. This is
I'm
a
not
fake.
inflating the numbers. This is my honest
This is
opinion.
a fraud. You do not give it a 10 out of 10.
Stop the count. It's rigged.
Jake, I'm glad you asked. Here are the tiers to how I rank movies. So we have my top 100. These movies are great. I love them.
There's my top 100, and then there's Spectre, and then there's every other movie.
Correct. You figured it out. Spectre, I would put it like, it's not The Spy Who Loved Me. It's not an undisputed masterpiece. It's wonky, but it's wonky in a way I love, and no one else may get why I love it. But you know, when everyone here is like, why don't they make James Bond movies that are just fun adventures? They did. It was called Spectre, and you rejected it.
No, it's very dull.
They made a boring art house version of a Bond movie.
All right, Jake, you can say that. I guess we'll just kill him, because nothing will make you happy anymore. Time to die.
No, don't.
Now, admittedly, despite my protestations, I think this next movie is a very clear dividing line in the opinions of the majority of the group as we go into 19. Has the same average rating as Spectre, a 5-star average rating from the 4 of us, but much like a 2-point higher average ranking of 18.75. Our 19th ranked James Bond movie is...
Is it Toby?
Okay, Connery.
Yay!
Okay.
So now
Connery.
we're in the good territory of
exactly.
We're into familiar territory. That's good.
This movie. Yeah, I mean, watching it was you're kind of like falling asleep and like what? But talking about it was a blast. It's like one of our best episodes.
Yes. Well, we don't even talk about the movie. We're really talking about Neil Connery's unfortunate circumstances in his life, and then Arthur.
Yes.
Yeah.
They stole the tool.
It has this weird cheapo Italian ripoff quality, which makes it both good and bad at the same time. Because it's really awkward, but it also has things like he's a surgeon and a hypnotist, and he's James Bond's brother.
There are so many people that are just like, wait a second. Surgeon, hypnotist, James Bond's brother? What is this? This movie exists? Oh, he's also an archer. Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, and he's actually Sean Connery's brother.
There is an archery duel. Not even Robin Hood movies are brave enough to attempt an archery duel.
Yeah. It has a climax with Power Ranger suits.
Yeah.
And as Paul mentions, there's one, I would say along with Die Another Day, it has the best gadgets.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're awesome. We're going to talk about gadgets separately, but yes.
Let me just say, though, I think what really makes OK Connery special, heads up, Jake gave it the highest rating at 7 out of 10.
No, I gave it a 10 out of 10, but I put it, but it's still low on my ranking because I don't actually think it's a 10 out of 10.
No, Jake, that's not true. I listened to the episode, so you can correct me and ruin the legitimacy of this, but I have you giving it a 7. Maybe a 10 out of 10 in your heart. Yes, I listened to it last night.
Again, Letterboxd Jake is not the Jake that is before us right now.
Yeah, Jake, you had your opinions.
Yeah,
on
no,
this
I'm a
podcast.
fraud.
This is an intervention.
As we talked about, I don't even know what James Bond is. I hate these movies. Why am I here?
You're just pandering to film Twitter because we know film Twitter loves OK Connery.
Yeah, I know. It's up there with David Fincher, David Lynch, OK Connery.
Yeah,
just jizz in your pants about it.
Jake and I tie in our rankings. We both put it at 18. Paul put it at 20. I just want to point out that I think the real magic of OK Connery, which I argued for, but then it was hilarious to find out was actually true, is that literally everyone is here. Lois Maxwell is here. Bernard
All the
Lee
stars.
is here.
Yeah.
Adolfo
Bernard Lee
Selly.
probably at his most drunk.
Yes, their biggest roles.
It's a pretty weird, awkward movie, but every Bond fan needs to watch this.
Because it is canon.
And every Ennio Morricone fan needs to watch this too. It's like he has people singing like cats in this. It's something to behold.
And I've told you guys that I do a lot of genealogy, as listeners of this podcast have heard them complain about. So on Ancestry.com, someone's made a family tree for James Bond, and they do list as his brother, Neil Connery. It's a beautiful.
I guess it's
sight
canon,
to
man.
see.
You got M. You got Miss Moneypenny.
Yeah, they're all here.
Yeah.
And Adolfo Selly is better in this movie than in Thunderball.
Yes, and he's also dubbed by a funnier voice.
Yes.
Oh, and also when Neil Connery pretends to be an Arab sheik, one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Oh my God, I had blocked that out.
You're working with radioactive material, it'll kill you. What?
What do you mean by that?
You're working with radioactive material, it will kill you. Oh, what did you say? Ah!
You're working with radioactive material, it will kill you.
What is it that you mean by that?
You are working with radioactive materials, do you understand? It will kill you.
They're trying to murder us, that is why we have the swords, we must go!
And then just starts touching Adolfo Celli.
Oh, and then he hypnotizes the man that he's like trying to give plastic surgery, and then he just goes like on a psycho rampage and jumps through the window.
Now you will follow my instructions. You won't have a moment of peace till it's all finished. Now go.
There's so many great moments in that movie.
Great moments. Yeah, you gotta watch it.
Yeah, go watch it. It's everywhere.
Oh yeah, and Danielle Bianchi.
Okay. Our next ranking, we've been talking about Neil Connery, but what about Sean Connery?
Who's that?
Oh, he was a movie star. He won an Oscar. Coming in at 18 with an average ranking of 16.5, a dramatic jump, and an average rating of 5.5 stars, it's Diamonds Are Forever!
Diamonds are forever.
Sean Connery's most consistent film, I think I said.
Consistently average.
Yeah.
Perfectly okay.
This is the Bond movie where Sean Connery is so bored, so checked out, that it comes around to being one of his most brilliant performances in his long career.
You speak English?
It's jazz.
Well, who is your floor?
Who is your floor?
You are English? I speak English. Who is your floor?
I was walking my rat and I seem to have lost my way.
I was just out walking my rat and I seem to have lost my way.
It's one of the most quotable ones for sure, and...
You just killed James Bond! Is that who it was?
You just killed James Bond.
Is that who it was?
People hate this one. This movie is kind of like, it reminds me of Concrete. It's a very gray movie. It also reminds me of going to Vegas with your grandparents. You know, it's got this sort of kind of like
exactly
chill, laid back vibe to it, where they're kind of just hanging out in this horrible, ugly city, like developing city.
Yeah, it is one of the Bond films. I guess it honestly is one of the ones that where you really appreciate the location photography because you really feel like you've been to Vegas at that time.
It's an old, like the time capsule of
a beautiful time capsule. It captures the city.
And what's funny is that it probably is more disgusting than Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
It is one of the trashiest movies we've ever seen. I mean, we mentioned it.
Like, it's a thing where you could just lick the screen and you could just taste, like, cigarette ash and BO and shit.
Yeah. When he has, like, the fucking ashtray on his chest, it's like, what the fuck is...
Yeah, it's so gross. And
So
it's
gross.
also the movie where you're just like, Never give Guy Hamilton anamorphic lenses because he'll find a way to fuck it up.
Yes. And I should acknowledge our friends in Bristol, who Jake introduced me to, notified us with the fun fact that the last shot on the last day of production for this film, the last thing Sean Connery ever did with Eon Productions was them putting him into a coffin.
Yes.
Yeah, you got that in there. And, Vegas is not the only beautifully photographed thing in this movie. They also really capture Charles Gray in all his glory.
We deeply sympathize.
Yeah, and Jill St. John and Lana Wood, everyone, I think the cast for this movie is a lot of fun.
Well, in particular, Charles Gray is that, like, I went from hating this movie and hating his performance as Blofeld because it's just like, oh, this is over the top and, like, what the hell is this? And then I come back around, I'm like, this movie is just, like, complete nonsense, and Charles Gray is amazing in this movie.
He's great. If you're one of those people that's like, Charles Gray sucks as Blofeld, I have one thing to say: get a life. And by that I mean, get a podcast where you talk only about James Bond for 3 hours.
Yeah, you losers. Yeah, imagine being that emotionally invested in Blofeld, everyone's favorite villain.
Yes. Anyway.
Tragic.
All right. Diamonds Are Forever. There was a schism. Me and Paul both gave it 6 stars. Jake and Jan both gave it 5 stars. Jan ranked it the lowest at 18. Paul ranked it the highest at 15.
I gave it 6 stars. What are you talking about?
Roll the tape.
Roll the tape. I go from a 2.5, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to give it a 3.
Oh, okay. That's why. I think you changed it when we were outside of official grading minutes, Jake. I'm not keeping track.
No, it was
of
a
all
minute.
that.
It was like a second after I gave my rating.
No, I'm moving on. We're moving. I get to decide when we move on. Right?
And also, I put it ahead of You Only Live Twice. I thought I should have that for the record.
Well, Jake, you can talk about it because coming in at number 17 with an average rating of 6.5 out of 10 and an average ranking of 14.5 is You Only Live Twice.
You only live twice.
Hey! This is in my top 10. I love this. This was like the rediscovery for me on this podcast. I love it.
Yeah.
I remember Jan was just like, no, this movie isn't boring. It's shot by Freddie Young. And also, he turns Japanese.
It goes from Lawrence of Arabia to a dog walker video in the span of a second.
Yeah.
That's fun to me. And this, to me, I don't know why it gets all the hate that sometimes it does, because it's everything you want in a 60s Bond adventure. It's got the sets. It's got the story. It's got the location. It's got the gadgets. It's got Blofeld. Such a great climax. Such great airplane sequences. It's big. So many extras. Louis Gilbert kills it immediately.
Okay, but Jan, here's the issue. Remember when you said that thing earlier about Troy? You once said these movies are at their worst when they're about James Bond just wandering from office to office and you're not clear what's happening. I believe I said that about You Only Live Twice. I believe that was the movie I was referring to.
Yes, but here the sets are so pretty that I don't mind. And even when the movie halfway through just kind of like slows down and it just becomes like James Bond hanging at a karate school, I also like that. It's like a nice chill, it's like a travel video. I like it.
Yeah, I will give it that. There's a lot of the big Bond iconography, Blofeld with the scar and Donald Pleasance, the volcano lair and the armies of ninjas dropping in and having a fight with the Spectre people. But Sean Connery's so bored, but not like in the Diamonds Are Forever circular kind of way. It's just like, I don't want to be here, and I am just like a piece of wood throughout this entire movie. And there's long stretches in this movie that are just kind of like nothing.
You're not wrong, but the whole movie, like they literally...
This is your view to a kill.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, like you're not wrong that he's bad in this, but the whole movie is making up for it. Like they literally put him in another race makeup to like spice up the performance.
All right, but now, Jan, we're circling back to it. The yellow face is what you need to think is good.
Well, I don't think Yellowface is funny. I think Yellowface is really bad. I think Sean Connery thinking that he's doing effective camouflage and him going arigato gozaimasu. I think that's funny.
Certainly memorable.
Yeah. It is just so bizarre to see. It is a reason why that image has floated on the internet for so long.
The best anime character.
There's no words to describe it.
No, it's so bizarre.
We put it in our thumbnail and nobody watched. And that's the important thing to remember. Ratings wise, me and Jake are consistent at a 6. Paul gave it a 6.5. Jan gave it a 7.5. Jan put it at 9. Jake put it the lowest at 19.
Yeah, I've upped it to an 8 because I rewatched it.
All right, this is the official ranking. You did not bump it to an 8. I'm shutting your ass down.
The polls are closed. I'm sorry, Jan.
The polls are closed. This is fraud. Before we leave this, I do want to say I do love the ending. As much as I make fun of Blofeld, Donald Pleasence is a lot of fun, and it's a perfectly fine Bond movie.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
Mr. Bond. No, that's the Count. Sorry.
Is he my favorite Blofeld, or is Christoph Waltz?
What the fuck, Trey?
There are at least 3 other Blofelds that are better than Christoph Waltz.
There are at least 3 other your moms that are better than
if you love Spectre and Christoph Waltz isn't even your favorite Blofeld.
I was gonna say, guys, if Christoph Waltz isn't even my favorite Blofeld, then I would be a hack fraud with Spectre that high.
That's a good point.
I have to be consistent. Speaking of another movie that's clear and dear to my heart, that I gave both the highest rating to and the highest ranking to. Coming in at, where are we now, 16?
You should write this down so you don't forget.
Yeah.
With an average rating of 6.875, it tied with You Only Live Twice in ranking of 14.5, but it has a higher rating of 6.875. Is The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah.
The man with the golden gun.
I think we all... shut up, Paul. Paul doesn't count because he's the producer. We all loved it.
We almost fired him as a producer after this episode. We had a meeting and we were like, so Paul doesn't like The Man with the Golden Gun.
We had a very serious meeting behind his back. This movie's good. When people talk about fun, campy Roger Moore, this is the one. This is the one to watch.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you got a great villain. You got Scaramanga, who I left off on my honorable mentions, but yeah, Scaramanga is great.
I didn't.
You have like so many just weird segues, like him going into a kung fu school and then he pushes a boy off of a boat. and you also have Roger Moore at his angriest, which we all remember Troy going like, well, this is Bond on the edge because Scaramanga's trying to kill him, but it also feels really out of place.
He has a motivation. For once in his life, Bond has a motivation to do something.
This is one of those Bond movies where, like, every scene, something crazy and creative is happening. And it's actually, unlike Live and Let Die, I think they're executing it quite well here.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's consistent. It's not like dead air fun. Dead air fun. It's just like wacky, wacky. Funhouse. Then we get the belly dancer shit where you see the camera crew. And the twisted Bernard Lee drunk sets. You know?
That's great. And then redeem J.W. Pepper.
They redeemed J.W. Pepper.
I know you.
Oh, no.
He's great. A lot of people consider this on the level of Die Another Day, Moonraker, those kind of silly Bond movies. I think what elevates it for me, and it sounds like for all of us, except the guy who gave it 5 out of 10 and ranked it 21 out of 29. I think what really elevates it is it's all crazy stuff, but the story is so linear and so clean to follow of James Bond on the hunt. James Bond trying to find this man with a third nipple.
James Bond trying to stop renewable energy at all costs.
Because it's run by a circus freak with a murder maze. Like, it's crazy, but everyone's psychology makes linear decisions. Scaramanga is there from the beginning of the movie.
I mean, as linear as you could take where he goes like, I'm going to make a space laser out of the sun.
No, he's the man with the golden gun.
And there's a flying car.
And there's a flying
car.
There's a flying...
And Knick-Knack.
Bonjour, Monsieur Bond. I am Knick-Knack.
Knick-Knack, and I gotta say, like, what really sells this one for me is This one has my favorite ending ever. Not something ever. Like, I won't even spoil it here. It's wonderful. I was hooting and hollering. I stood up and clapped.
Yes, every time society will tell you to not like this movie, they are
Or a man
wrong.
named Paul Snow.
Don't listen to the pulse of this world. Why don't you like it?
What? We've already been okay. This is look. It's a taste thing. But I don't care about Knick Knack, and I think this is a pretty uneven one. It has more wacky stuff than For Your Eyes Only, but less than Moonraker. So it's sandwiched between. It's one
False.
It's one of the mediocre Roger Moores, which are most of his movies. So
Okay, we'll let this guy talk. Let's move on.
Paul, there is a part where James Bond is defended by karate teenagers after witnessing a karate battle to the
And
death. It has nothing to do with anything.
The worst karate I've ever seen in a movie.
Yes.
Hands down.
yes, again, it's one of, I think I have it. Yes, in my 10 plus installments of this franchise that are trash. And it's just a question of how interesting they are, right?
Yeah, fair.
Fine.
So.
I do want to point out the best kung fu in the series is by Jonathan Pryce in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yes.
Pathetic.
Totally agree.
Agreed.
Elliot Carver is the master.
He studied the blade.
Whoa.
Not a controversial opinion.
But Jake, thank you for the segue. We're working together.
We need
on
a Kill Bill remake where Pai Mei is played by Jonathan Pryce doing it.
All right. Now, Jake mentioned controversial, and I think in the James Bond, I genuinely think there's maybe 3 movies on this list where I think the James Bond community should be genuinely upset with where we put them. This is one of them. This is a surprisingly controversial movie.
Because of how high or how low?
It's kind of low, honestly. I think it's genuinely underrated on this podcast, and we didn't give it a fair shake, some of us.
Oh, boy.
It has the exact same rating as The Man with the Golden Gun, 6.875, but with an average ranking of 14. Our 15th favorite James Bond film is The Living Daylights.
Whoa! That low?
Yeah, this movie sucks my dick.
Yeah, Jake, because we're with these two.
Well, we've got a lot of other ones that are better than this to get through. So.
No, but I would rank this in my top 10.
It's in my top 10.
I'm sorry, guys. This movie's boring as shit.
No, it's not boring. It's our first Timothy Dalton thing. The romance between him and Kara is very nice. It is not a Vesper Lynn level thing, but they have good chemistry and they're very sweet with each other.
Don't remember a single thing about him.
I love Yorgi Koskov and Brad Whitaker, especially Yorgi Koskov because he's probably the most unique Bond villain in the whole series,
yes,
where he's literally just
a
comic relief character who's just like, I am just a Russian guy, I don't know anything, and he's actually like a evil arms dealer, man. The only slow part is really when
they join the Mujahideen.
Yeah, when they join the Mujahideen, it kind of slows down a bit, but then you have like that awesome airplane fight at the end. Where
well, and him helping the Mujahideen fills you with American pride, I'm sure.
Yes. If I lived in 1985, I'd be like hooting and hollering, but like
you're a post 9/11 guy.
But then now, I unfortunately was 6 years old when 9/11 happened.
Jake, did you have a birthday party right after 9/11?
I was sick actually the week of my birthday, and when 9/11 happened.
Oh no!
You were so distraught from 9/11 that you got
I was
sick.
so distraught. No, I had an asthma attack the night before 9/11. On 9/11. Like the night before 9/11, and then I woke up and my dad was screaming at the TV.
Well, I don't think I've told this story, but I think my parents claimed that on September 10th, I asked them, well, what's the tallest building in the world? So.
Oh, no.
Okay. But no, The Living Daylights, like, this is an adequate movie. Kara is fine, but it's painfully stuck halfway between what Moore was and what Dalton became. It has an identity crisis.
Okay, Paul, you've redeemed yourself from the man with the golden gun. I'm totally with you.
I will say that it has a little identity crisis because there's like a few blips, but I don't think it overshadows the movie as a whole.
Yeah.
And it's actually like a more successful attempt at doing like a more Ian Fleming-ish spy thriller than like, say, For Your Eyes Only, where a lot of it is like the spy intrigue, and it does it mostly successfully.
I like the first 20 minutes, then it's very boring.
Yeah, you just like giant tubes. I think it has a strong through line. It does have a bit of an identity crisis, but this is the movie I complain Timothy Dalton cares too much. This is the movie you make for a Bond who cares too much. Globe-trotting adventure, fun mission, and a romance that I feel you can really sink your teeth into. I love Kara.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
And Paul says it's adequate, and Jake said yes. And they're on two different sides of the debate. And I think that kind of gets to what this is.
Well, I explained
No,
why
I have a point to make.
Oh, okay.
I call this many times. I forget if I said it on the podcast. I call this the Batman of the James Bond movies in that it's the 2021 film, The Batman. I think The Batman is a perfectly good Batman movie. It is good. It does everything you would want a Batman movie to do. It's a little messy, but it does it. Is that particularly interesting? Maybe to talk about on a podcast, for instance? I don't know. I know I'm not super excited for more The Batman because I'm like, I feel I've already seen it, but that was a very good version of what I've seen. That's how I feel about The Living Daylights. It's a very good version of what I've seen. The difference is that, as I've said before, James Bond is a weaker franchise than Batman, so it means a lot more for James Bond than it does for Batman, and that's why it is my 9th favorite. I ranked it the highest, and I believe me and Jake both gave it an 8.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the same problem as For Your Eyes Only, is like, it's trying to be a proto, like what we saw in the early Craigs, like trying to be more serious and Fleming-y, not committing that much. Very paint by numbers for me. I don't dig this one.
Also, I put an asterisk next to this ranking because fans of our podcast will remember that this is the movie where Jake gave a glowing review, and I was like, hell yeah, Jake is on my side. He's going to love this movie. And then he went 4 out of 10.
Whoops. I had my Rich Evans moment where
a classic blunder.
Yeah, this is my Scost folding table moment.
This is like Lee at Gettysburg accidentally saying a 4 out of 10.
And what was even worse is that I was on a roll with my final thoughts, and then I fucked it up at the end.
You were preaching.
Story of my life.
Sorry.
But I quickly course corrected, and his actual rating was tabulated for this definitive ranking. Oh my God, how many more of these do we have? Holy shit.
We're at number 14 right now.
All right, number 14, we're going back to the beginning with an average rating of 7.25 out of 10. Ooh, we're in the 7s.
Yeah.
And an average ranking of 13 of the whole series. Ooh, we're 13. Who could forget all of our many thoughts on Dr. No!
Yeah!
Hey, this is my number 14 also.
Correct.
This is my number 12.
Wait, it's my number 14 too.
Yeah, 14 seems like a good place for this. It's good.
Also, full disclosure, Paul and Jake both gave it 12.
I'm a little surprised, but I guess that, honestly, I think that reflects more on the films below it than the films above it.
Yes, it does. Except for the great ones that you don't like for some reason.
This one has a lot of, the narrative is a little stilted. It has many awkward parts. It is very kind of low budgety, not yet at the high octane Bond shit that we like. But this one's just one. First of all, I think it gets so much of Bond right off the gate. Like, it establishes so many things that we love about this franchise right in the first one. Sean Connery's mastering this character. He knows what to do with it. Terrence Young is also doing a very good job.
Give most of the props to Terrence Young, because without him, he really shaped Sean Connery's performance. in this movie.
Despite all its shortcomings, it's still just one that I like to pop on because it is one of those, like, it transports me to the early 60s spy genre.
Yes.
And I love it for the vibes, you know? I love the suits. I love Jamaica. I love the evil layer. It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
It's so strange, this movie, because there's not really any movie like it, like before this time, because it's just like, it's kind of like a noir.
There's like 29 other movies like it. I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
it kind of started a trend.
Well, at the time, like, nobody had seen like a movie that's just like, it just commits so hard to this bit of like, this is our hero. He is a bastard. And you're gonna like him.
He's the coolest guy ever.
He's the coolest guy ever, and he's doing detective work, but he's also going into a secret underground lair that's designed by cant't. Also, the filmmaking in this movie, like the very first introduction of James Bond, there's a reason why we still talk about that character today, and I think a lot of it has to do with the introduction of James Bond in this movie, because Terrence Young, a lot of the filmmaking is kind of, he does a good job with Sean Connery, but like here, he's really building the suspense, building up to the reveal of Bond, because we get just his hands, and then finally she asks him his name, Sylvia Trench, and we finally cut to Bond, and he lights a cigarette, and we get the theme song behind him.
I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
So we clearly identified that theme song with this man, and we get this character immediately. And then the rest of the movie is just a series of scenarios that set up what this character is about.
and it's
why
still
we
the
like
best
him.
Bond James Bond ever.
Yes.
It is, I would agree.
Unparalleled.
I do like The World Is Not Enough, though, when he
Oh,
shoots
that one,
the
that's a
casket.
great one. No, and I mean, this I like because it's the early 60s, coming fresh out of 50s puritanical bullshit. The Hays Code is over, and this is just wiping its ass with it. We're like, we're gonna make, this is the worst guy ever. He likes getting his dick wet 24/7, and you're gonna love him, goddammit.
Hi, Jan. I'm sorry, I'm autistic here and a film major. The Hays Code did not end until 1964, 2 years after this movie.
It ended
I
in
believe.
1954.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Jan, are you actually going to sit here and tell me
let's
you think Lady and the
wait,
Tramp
Paul,
was not
I know we
made
had
under
a
the
bunch
Hays
of
Code?
thoughts from you in our first episode.
I'm looking it up right now. It ended in 1954.
No, Joe Breen left the Hays office in 1954, and that was when it was at its most powerful. But the guidelines continued until 1968.
Well, this makes this movie even cooler because it's still wiping its ass with this dumbass code.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
It's pushing the envelope. Yes, I had many wonderful thoughts, which I definitely remember. I've seen this movie once, and I thought it was all right. I think this is a case of part of the reason my integrity has been so strong in this ranking is that I really have to trust what I said initially. So, but I think I do have it barely higher than You Only Live Twice. So it's not one of, obviously, Connery outdid himself. Let's just say that.
Yes, you have it one higher. And yeah, I kind of agree with Paul. That does kind of still feel like the starter kit James Bond. You're really waiting for the DLCs to drop to make it a little more fun and bigger than life. But you know what? The vibe is great. And Dr. No's a fun villain. Honey Rider has an iconic entrance. I love whenever Sean Connery sings.
Underneath the mango tree, my honey and me.
Who's that?
Darby O'Gill. I've already name dropped it this episode. I love Darby O'Gill. And I will say this. The first hour is kind of James Bond wanders around a bunch of places. But you know what? Instead of offices, it's like bungalows and beachfront. And there's a reason why they returned to Jamaica. It's because it's pretty.
I recently acquired the first edition run of the Dr. No VHS.
Jake, that looks beat up like hell.
Well, I heard that it
How
was...
much did you pay for
I heard that that there is apparently a version that is uncut, but...
You heard about the secret alternate cut where James Bond dies.
Yeah, the secret alternate cut, but I really just got it because I remember seeing this at the video store when I was a kid.
I think that's just Sean Connery's sex tape.
Yeah, but
yeah,
you got to look at this cover. You viewers at home can't see this, but maybe we'll post about it. But it's very funny.
He looks like an evil dummy.
Yeah, he looks like the dummy from Goosebumps.
It literally looks like a serial killer. Like, this is
James
he's
Bond.
going to bed a woman and then shoot her or kill her with a chainsaw.
Correct.
Yeah, James Bond.
Yeah, you've had Jack the Ripper had his 5. Well, James Bond has had his 6.
And you've had your 6.
Yeah.
So number 13.
It's very telling that Jan got this right, because this next movie has a connection near and dear to Jan's LinkedIn. It is with an average rating of 7.375 out of 10 and an average ranking of 12.25. Our 13th favorite James Bond film, Lucky 13, is License to Kill.
That's actually very fitting because it's also a cursed movie.
Yeah.
Well, they all are cursed movies.
These are all cursed movies. We should have made this our 13th episode.
Yeah, we should have just ranked them all at the 13th episode and been done with it.
I love this movie. To me, it was such a huge step up from the last Timothy Dalton one. This is just full balls to the wall, canon action revenge flick. It's very violent. I love it. Timothy Dalton's really great in it.
Yeah, perfectly tailored to Timothy Dalton's strengths.
Very angry.
Yeah, exactly. Very emotional, very angry, which may disturb one of us, Troy.
I didn't give this the lowest. I gave this the lowest ranking at 15, but the lowest rating comes from Mr. Paul Snow.
Whoa.
6.5.
Whoa. And you like this movie, Paul.
Yeah, that's what I thought was interesting.
It's significantly higher than Living Daylights.
By significantly higher, you mean 1 point.
Well, a point could be a lot. Yes, the first hour completely delivers on the canon promise, and then it has to make up for that by having a lot of casino stuff that I don't
That's the bad
understand.
part, yeah. When it becomes a James Bond movie, that's when it becomes bad.
Well,
A great villain. The action in this movie is amazing. Very Dark Knight Rises-ish, as we mentioned. And yeah, just having Pedro Armendáriz, who was the second AD in this movie, giving us so much dirt on the, It was like releasing the Trump Zelensky phone call or something. It was
a perfect movie.
It was a perfect movie. No, it was a blast to have that behind the scenes.
Yes, everyone should listen to our discussion with Pedro.
It is one of our lowest watched episodes, but you should listen to it.
It's our best one by far.
It's seriously our best one. You should listen to it, really.
Yeah. Look,
it's cool.
Listeners, I know you guys are like, what? They don't like Spectre? And they recorded an episode while Troy was doing improv, avenging a fallen friend. And they expect me to listen to it? I don't think so.
Just if you are gonna listen to the episode, listen it at like 20% volume, because Pedro's voice is something for the ages. It is very special.
All right, but License to Kill is kind of the flip side of Dr. No. I like the vibes of Dr. No more. License to Kill is a stronger story. Timothy Dalton is too emotional.
I think this and Living Daylights are pretty consistent for me, so I put this at 9 and Living Daylights at 10.
I gave this an 8 out of 10.
No, on my list, it's number 9.
For me, it's number 11, same as Calvin Dyson.
With an average rating of 6.75 out of 10, you'll notice that's much lower than the last two movies, that it is higher than. It tied with another movie with an average ranking of 11.75, so these two movies knocked each other out of the top 10. Ladies and gentlemen, he strikes like Thunderball.
Thunderball! Yay!
Wow. I like this one.
That's rough.
It is maybe my least favorite one up to that point. What came before? Yeah, the first three, you know?
Yeah, the first three.
It's a little long. The underwater sequences, though impressive, are a little slow. But I think it's very fun. It's very simple. And it's big. This is the biggest one so far. The first widescreen one.
Yeah.
I dig it.
The greatest cold open to a Bond movie of all time.
Oh, it's one for the ages. Yeah.
The one that imprinted on Jake.
The one that imprinted on me of going like, what?
That's like your whole personality is those first 5 minutes.
It's those first 5 minutes going from you think Bond is dead, Bond is not dead, he's at another guy's funeral, he's about to woo the widow, but he punches her. Turns out the widow is actually a man that he's trying to kill. And then he escapes on a jetpack and into the DB5. This movie is really like, we said Dr. No's a vibes movie, Thunderball, ultimate, like early Bond vibes movie. And it also has like the basic structure that a lot of Bond knockoffs, parodies kind of steal from.
Unfortunately.
Evil organization steals nukes and threatens the world, and Bond has to stop it. Underwater sequences, sometimes it can be long, but for the most part, on my recent viewing, they flew by and they got the stuff they need to make it as interesting as possible. It was great. Paul loves this movie too.
I'm the one that goes to bat for this movie. I think I have it at number 5 on my list.
Correct. Paul has the highest ranked. Both Jake and Paul gave it 8 out of 10, but Paul ranked it 1 spot higher
Yes, I put it
Jake.
at number 6.
And this is the first movie to, I believe, have 2 top 10 placements.
There we go. Yes, to me, this is, and look, I don't remember what order I saw it in, but it may have been an imprint. I don't think I was that young, obviously, but it was a big one into learning what James Bond is, and I still think now, having seen all of them, it is, to me, the overall best Connery. It is, in many ways, I think, crystallizes the form and becomes, like, kind of definitive for, like, Golden Age early Bond, more than Goldfinger, because Goldfinger has things that were not really repeated. But also, it's a good time, and I like underwater. And I like a guy with a pool full of sharks, you know?
It's a fun one.
No, I'm going to say my view.
Oh, yeah.
This movie sucks. I put it at 21. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who probably keeps it out of the top 10. I put it at 21. I gave it a 4 out of 10. I've seen this movie twice. It did not imprint on me early. I watched it when I was like 26. Nothing happens in this movie. It is so boring. It's better than Never Say Never Again, but Kevin McClory is an awful writer, and I'm glad he's dead that I can say that without fear of legal repercussions.
Remember who's sponsoring this episode.
Look, guys, we had a movie that said the dead speak, and you all rejected its message, so I'm not listening to the dead right now.
Okay.
All right.
Well, number 12.
Number 11.
That's what I said. I know numbers.
All right, number 11. It has the exact same ranking. It tied with Thunderball at 11.75, but it has a slightly higher average rating of 7.125, and that is, of course, From Russia with Love.
Did make it to the top 10? That's interesting.
Yes, because Paul and Jake put it at 11.
All of the Bond fans are zeroing in on our location with pitchforks and knives, and they're going to string us up on the street.
Yeah.
I can already hear the critical drinker pulling up to my house with a gun.
But joke's on them, I already have a gun. I'll shoot myself.
Yeah, we'll just kill ourselves before they can get in.
He's done it, what, 3, 4, 5 times so far? So.
I know. 5th time's the charm.
You notice that we're on the same page on this one. 3 of us gave it a 7 out of 10. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, but I did not rank it the highest in the group.
Well, this is the one where it gets good when they get on the train.
Yes.
Everything before is a little eh.
Yes. Sorry, Pedro Armendáriz.
This is an old friend of mine, and it tells me something smells.
I like Kareem. And again,
Yeah.
I like this one for the early 60s spy vibes. I like that this one's a little more spy-y, Hitchcockian, some would say.
Very, very strongly Hitchcockian.
Some would say plagiarized.
Some would say plagiarized.
Some would say.
Yeah. If H. Bomber guy was living in the 60s, he would have a field day with this one. But yeah, this is the best wig from Connery's tenure.
I think this is real. Mostly.
No way.
I mean, mostly, but he's got some help.
Yeah, he's got help. Well, in Dr. No, he had some help. Like, they sprayed it on, and it's obvious. But you can kind of tell in these first 2 movies, it's mostly his real hair.
Just looking so lickable in this movie. He looks great.
This is Sean Connery's best movie as an actor. in the James Bond more caveats. In the James Bond franchise.
Yeah.
The best directed by Terrence Young. I think this movie is really stylish.
Yeah.
I watched all the James Bond movies in order when I first saw them. So when I first saw this, I'm like, it's okay. I only really like the stuff on the train. But now as a mature adult, having watched all the James Bond movies.
It's a masterpiece.
You didn't know how good you had it.
I now watch From Russia with Love. It's like, this is good. It's problematic in parts. It's disjointed. It's a James Bond movie.
I really don't know why Bond fans hold it as to like the high regard of like
Because
top
I think
5
it's
material.
the first time the franchise was exciting. Like the James Bond excitement, a lot of what distinguishes Dr. No is fun, but I do like this a little better. And
a little, but they're pretty neck and neck for me, honestly.
Well, it's a little bit more, there's a pace.
And it's like the grittiest Connery, right?
Yeah. It's very much in the same way that comic book fans defend Joker. It's because it feels like another better movie.
I like it a little more than Joker. I think I like Dr. No and Joker about the same, actually.
And this one introduced Blofeld. Well, his hands. So that's good.
Anthony Dawson. There is a reason why the Broccoli's use scenes from this movie as audition slides. It's very good at like just getting to the core of what James Bond is. And that is an incredibly famous man who works as a secret agent who everyone wants to have sex with, who kills people while he's stumbling backwards in a moving compartment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whoa, slow down there, fellas. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. This is getting a little long, so tune in next week for our top 10 favorite Bond films. This list is definitive. It can't be disputed. Also, not to mention, we have our favorite Bond gadgets, our favorite Bond song, and our favorite Bond actor. Tune in next week.
And if you don't tune in, we know where you live. But also, bye.